All right, folks, what is going on? This is episode 472 of the First and Frame Rate Show. I am VF Baller. Over here, we talk about Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons football. And today we're going to talk Georgia Southern because Georgia Southern is at a crossroads right now. What's going to happen with their team with the last 3 games of the season. They're going up to Louisiana, and I know Coach Clay Helton said they're going to have to play with some anger, but I'm going to add something to that. They're going to have to play with anger and urgency because Louisiana, not necessarily saying that they're one of the better teams in the Sun Belt like they used to be, but you still can't take this team lightly. And with that being said, that Georgia Southern is really in a position to make some things happen right now. But they're really at a crossroads, so we're going to talk about that. If this is your first time here, welcome. This is the First and Frame Rate Show. I can be found on YouTube and Rumble. I'm also on Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. I also have a locals account. I'm going to be posting over there stuff that don't make it to the podcast. It's also going to be stuff from the VF Cast, which is my other channel. That is VF Baller Sports and Gaming.locals.com. The link will be down in the description. And we're going to get into that later on this week. But right now, we're going to talk about Georgia Southern. We're going to talk about this team and what they need to do, especially against Louisiana, and why they need urgency on top of that anger Coach Clay Helton has been talking about. We're going to talk about that right now. Well, Georgia Southern lost their last game to South Alabama, and to be honest with you, I didn't get too far into this, but they got punked. They got beat up. They got smacked around a little bit in the fourth quarter. There was an altercation where one of the players actually spit on one of our players, which is absolutely disgusting. But when stuff like that happens, you need to respond back. And one of the best ways to respond back is to play tough and win the game. And we didn't do that. So we basically got punked. Now, this is where Coach Clay Helton comes in and said we have to play with anger. I agree. But it's also with a side of urgency as well, because not only when you're dealing with the anger side of things, where you want to show that other teams, or in this case, Louisiana, that you're no pushover, the urgency comes in because you actually have 2 other teams that you have to play after that, and you need to play lights out. I mean, you need to play like to the type of team that you can be, putting up 40 points. Bend don't break defense, because we know this defense is not the best, but we've shown flashes, mostly in the James Madison and Old Dominion game, where this defense actually stepped up a little bit and made some plays. Now, we're going to Louisiana. This is a real good test for us to play really tough, pretty hard, play a little bit upset, and play and show these people, not these people, but this team, that we are who we are. One of the biggest turnarounds in the Sun Belt this season, where we went from 3-9, and we got a new coach, we got new personnel, we got new players for the most part, and we actually made a difference. We're 1 game away from bowling as well, to go into a bowl game. So that's another reason why you want to be playing with a level of urgency, because you don't want to fall and start having a losing streak and not able to do something with this team. Do something in the postseason. Because if you lose the next 3 games, you start looking at 5-7, and then you're not going to be going to a bowl game, and it's going to be a disaster from what a really promising beginning of the season. It looked like we could have gone very far, but I feel like this team is going to be able to do some things and win against this team. I really believe that. I think they're going to beat Louisiana, because I'm looking at some of the stats that Louisiana has done. Their quarterback touchdown to interception ratio looks good, but the rest of this team, from what I see, is not that impressive. Like I said, this is not going to be a pregame or a preview of this game. It's more talking more Georgia Southern than the Raging Cajuns, which we will get into later on this week. Most likely it's going to be the next episode, because we got Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons playing on Thursday, which we'll talk about that very shortly. When it comes to both teams, I got something special for y'all that I want to talk about. But right now, we just need to play with the level of urgency to this team, with the stats that they have and the way they play, and as much as yards that they allow, they're not that prominent. We should be able to do something against this team. And they don't put up that many points either. Speaking of points, did you know that Georgia Southern is a 3-point underdog against Louisiana? Also, the Atlanta Falcons, they're 3-point favorites against Carolina. Now, I'm looking at Georgia Southern, I'm like, all right, that's easy money because Georgia Southern put up a lot of points. They should be able to run away with this game. For them being underdogs, almost easy money. Also, the Falcons, did you see the game that they played against Carolina? That last game was bonkers. So with BetUS, is my new affiliate partner that I'm with at right now. BetUS is the place to be if you want to make these bets. Right now, if you click the link down in the description, you can receive a $125 sportsbook bonus upon initial deposit. That deposit has to be $100. You put in $100, you get $125, 125% bonus just by putting down money. And you can put that money down, bet on these Falcons, bet on Georgia Southern, and you can make some easy money, real easy. Because I think these lines are almost, too easy. Almost too easy. In my opinion, I think the Georgia Southern one is very easy. The Atlanta Falcons one, I'm rocking with them because that's my team. And the way they've been playing, and they play against the Panthers, how crazy that game was wild. Not only that, you can bet on all type of things inside of the game. You can bet on if a safety will happen, will block punt, or will the game end with a tie. All types of things that you can bet on within the game itself. Like I said, to me, this is a very good offer. I highly recommend it. It's a no-brainer. Receive a 125% sportsbook bonus by putting down $100. You get that type of percentage in return, and you can bet on not only these two games but other games as well. And not only that, like I said, with these two games, it's almost a no-brainer. I think you can win money easily on those two. Hopefully you guys will check it out. Click the link down in the description for more information. So Georgia Southern basically has to, not only just play with anger and urgency. I already talked about that, but I want to see Georgia Southern play with that type of defense that they played in the beginning of the South Alabama game. If they can keep that up, they should be fine. Because the offense, they're going to have ups and downs in the offense, but the offense for the most part are going to continue to do what they do. I highly doubt that you're going to see the type of offense that we saw in the last two quarters of the South Alabama game. These guys are going to come out and continue to just play pretty well and be dominant against this other, against opponents. I mean, putting up 30, 40 points a game is not nothing to sneeze at, and I think it's nothing that they're just going to fall off. Don't get me wrong, Jeremy Singleton, don't know his status. Amari Jones is gone, but we're still capable of putting up points. We did that prior, in the beginning of the game, we put up, 21, 24 points? So we're capable of just doubling that and putting up 42, 48 points. So it can be done. I'm not really worried about that. The main thing is they just got to stay focused on what they've been doing, because at the end of the day, these guys are more than capable of running the table. They should be able to beat Louisiana fairly, fairly convincingly. I guess that's a way to say it. They should be able to beat them convincingly. Now, the Marshall and Appalachian State game, now I'm going to be scratching my head on that one. I don't know. I still think with us being at Paulson does help. But then again, we were at Paulson at the South Alabama game, and we're like, what happened? That's why I say the urgency needs to come in. Don't just play mad, because sometimes when you play mad, you get a little undisciplined. But when you play with urgency, you're more focused on what you have to do. And I think if this team is really focused, they can beat anybody. I'm not joking when I say they can beat anybody when they're focused. You saw how focused they were against the Nebraska game offensively anyway. They were very focused. Defensively, you saw how well they were focused against James Madison. So you saw both sides of what they can do. Their backs were kind of against the wall, because, beating a Power 5 team was on the docket ever since the Florida game back in 2013. We needed a Power 5 win, because a lot of other teams in the Sun Belt was getting those Power 5 wins. We needed to establish that. We should have been one of the first to establish it, but now we're here. Now, when you look at a situation with being at 500, toying with 500 right now, is an urgency level, because you've made the standard so high of what we've done so far this season. At one point, we was 5-3. We were looking really good. Being at 5-4, you don't want to go to 500, because it really puts a blemish on what we've done so far. And last but not least, going bowling. Big turnaround for Georgia Southern if we can go to a bowl game this season after the season we had last year. So it's not just, us going through the motions and just trying to win games. at this point, it's urgent that we do win these games. I still have this team at 8-4. I think this team can continue to be continue to go and strive for that. But it really falls on what happens in this game right here. This game should be the game that we really knock it out the park. Like we should knock it out the park easily. It should be no excuse to where we are we're looking at a situation where okay, now we're not going to be going bowling because we're 5-5 now, and these next 2 games are going to be so much pressure on us. And I think once we get that win number 6, the game will get fun again, and it doesn't need to be as urgent. You don't have to play with anger. You can just really just play your game once it gets to the Marshalls in Appalachian State. You don't have to play with this level of, oh man, we need to do something, because now you're pretty much established to the point where, okay, we are where we are now because we've accomplished the goals that we wanted. And I think for year 1, I think going to a bowl and actually finding a way to get yourself in order as far as establishing yourself back into the level of football greatness, where you can bring home trophies, back into the level of where you are one of the top teams in the Sun Belt, when you can walk back home with a trophy after beating somebody in a bowl game once again. Now, what I would like to see at the end of the day, and I don't want to get too far into this, I would like to see these guys go for a Sun Belt title, but it's still year 1. I'm not really tripping on the expectations that high. The first year coach Clay Helton here, but at the very least, I would like to see these guys go bowling. I would like to see them have an 8-4 record. And I say that based on the roster and the schedule, and it's still attainable. But at the bare minimum, we can't walk away without going to a postseason game. We just can't do that. But I would love to see the 8-4. And I think if these guys continue to play, if they start to play with the anger and urgency versus Louisiana, we could take that step we could take the next step to a Marshall, or we could take the next step to Appalachian State, and then we could close the season out to find out who we're playing in a bowl game. And I think that, I think that's really, where I think that's really attainable at the end of the day. So that's all I got to say about that. I think these guys are on their way, but they have to start with playing at a high level and against Louisiana. I will talk about a pregame on that, and I'll do a pregame for Atlanta because both teams will be playing on Thursday, which will be very, very interesting to see and play when that comes. Watch both teams play and see how that comes about. If you like this commentary, hit the like button, share this podcast, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And what do you guys think? Georgia Southern playing with anger and urgency. They need to do that versus Louisiana. I really believe that. And there's no other way around it. I can be found on YouTube and Rumble. I'm also on Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. I also have a Locals. That link is down in the description. Check out the Locals. That is VF Baller Sports and Gaming.locals.com. Also, the betting app, BetUS, where you can put in $100 and you can get 125% in your sports book. So you can go check all that out. The link is down in the description. Hopefully you guys will check that out. Also, I could be found on Twitter. You can find me there. I'm also on Discord, so you guys could check me out there as well, where we talk about Georgia Southern. And all the links are down in the description if you want to support in any way, shape, or fashion. I will see you guys on the next one. You guys take it easy. You guys be blessed. I will see you guys on Wednesday. All right, y'all. Take it easy. Be blessed. Peace.